Welcome back to another episode of Sound Pals Go to the Movies. Today I will be reviewing the movie Renfield. So just a fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. Dracula's familiar, Renfield, longs for a different life away from the Count of Darkness and all his demands and all the bloodshed that comes with it. So let's begin with my first pro. We get to see Nick Cage as Dracula, so we can cross that off the list, and he does bring his inner Dracula out in this film. His acting is not too over the top, but he does know that this movie is a comedy movie and he doesn't go all serious on you. His performance is what you would expect from Nicolas Cage. One thing I want to point out is that Cage's acting as Dracula went really well with Nicholas Holt's Renfield. It seemed they had great chemistry and they paired well, and I do believe that they were working well together on stage. Next pro is that they do pay homage to all the previous actors who have played Dracula in films. One example is how both Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Holt's characters are edited into the Bela Lugosi Dracula film, and they do it so well that it's seamless. Aside from that, the script does make references to the original written work by adding some dialogue lines that allude to it. Next pro, the film does have this comic book made for TV feel. It sort of feels like the show Preacher that aired on AMC. Preacher showed a bunch of violence and gore, but it did have a bit of humor in there as well. And I am not just saying this because Renfield was written by Robert Kirkman and Preacher was a comic book published by Image, the same company that published Kirkman's work, The Walking Dead. I just feel that the way it was written, it wanted to collide Dracula's and Renfield's drama with the mob and cops drama and have gore splash all over the place, just like most mature comics do nowadays. I did like how they had the comedic humor between Dracula and Renfield, also the sort of mirroring their relationship as a toxic dating relationship. I just feel that it's something that they should have developed and built upon to show a bit more. Like Dracula being super controlling of who Renfield sees or speaks to, and then when he's alone, he can't help but think, is he out there seeking someone else to serve and such things. And this brings me to my cons. The biggest con I can see was their failed attempt to merge the mob versus cop drama with the Renfield and Dracula drama all into one movie plot. I was totally behind Dracula and Renfield's toxic relationship, and that was great and all until the mob and the cops got involved. I felt that before it had this what we do in the shadows kind of vibe, but with gore and violence while walking the line of comedy and dark elements. Then when you add the mob into it, I just felt that it was just done to fill in the gaps of time and space, and it was a waste of time. Next con was the cast that was casted for the second story. Example, the mobster's son, Teddy Lobo, who was played by Ben Schwartz, was irritating, and you can argue that he was made to be that way, but my reasoning is why only him while his mom is super serious. The son seemed he was trying too hard to be the jerk that was still somewhat funny but didn't really help. Awkwafina, who played Rebecca, the straight edge walking cop, felt really out of place as if she was trying to do stand-up comedy while acting and making every simple joke land. I will give it to them that sometimes I did catch myself giggling to some jokes, especially at the "shut the F up Kyle" lines that she was delivering. That felt simple and not forced, but yes, some of her jokes really seemed like they wanted a pity laugh. Next con was the blood from the violent gore scenes that were shown, but then I asked myself, where was the after blood splatter on the actors' clothing or even the surrounding elements in the scenes, since we literally saw Renfield pull a man's arms off and turn him into a blood splattering sprinkler that rained blood everywhere. I just felt that the director did not communicate between the prop department and the CG department by saying, so here we want blood pouring out of the people that Renfield is attacking, so CG department, that means you, and the prop department, we need that CG blood to translate onto the onstage fake blood, so on walls, on the actors' faces, and even their clothing. So yeah, blood everywhere. Everybody got it, but I think he just called it in, and after shooting, he basically rang up the CG department and said, one last thing, it would be great if you could add blood as if it was a Quentin Tarantino film, but make it CG since I totally forgot while I was shooting it. Sorry, my bad. And the CG department had nothing else to work with. The last con was the rushing of the ending and how it fell apart as soon as Dracula teamed up with the mob. I seriously tuned out at that point, and I was face palming myself when Renfield was carrying the picture labeled Dracula's blood around and he actually left it on the table of the support group meeting. I was hoping to see a random bad guy that was probably still Dracula's familiar from the mob group show up and steal it, and then we can hear Dracula's laugh at the end, sort of a continuing story along as a cliffhanger. Or if it was that important and powerful, why didn't Renfield take precautions and keep it in a safe place, or just plain and simple get rid of it and say this is the end as he poured it down the drain? And also the last thing that really bothered me was if Renfield was still alive, wouldn't that mean that Dracula was still alive since he he is Dracula's familiar, because if Dracula dies, doesn't that also mean the familiar dies as well? So that was not really cleared up at the end. So a mistake, or maybe they just didn't care at the end and they just wanted to finish the film. So my grade for this movie is going to be a low 6 out of 10. Not a good story about Dracula mixed with comedy. It just had too many characters involved that were not really developed, and just two separate stories that were being smashed together and trying to make them cohesive. So bottom line, if you want to see Nicolas Cage as Dracula, then wait till this comes out on demand, but don't go waste your time or money by seeking it out in theaters. So that does it for this review of Renfield. Please join us next time. We're going to review Sisu.
You'll see what happens when you take everything from him.
Do you really believe that he's immortal?
No, he just refuses to die.
Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can find our social media links below. And like always, keep watching movies.